Poetry in motion, Sunday poetry in motion. Poetry in motion, Sunday poetry in motion. Poetry in motion, Sunday poetry in motion. Poetry in motion, Sunday poetry in motion.
Hello there once again and welcome to Poetry in Motion Sunday. I'm Craig Lewis and you're watching episode 32. Lopsided was their friendship like a cart short of a wheel. One walked into this blinded until the start of the reveal. First appearing faintly like a rainbow in the sky, then he'd spot things clearly as if he trained the eye. You never miss the water until the well runs dry. One was kind by nature, one was nothing but a taker. The taker underestimated that one day he'd wake up and cease from being walked over like he was a mat. Exposed him like one pulled over for driving without tax. The money he would lend, he'd give deadlines to get it back. When he was late, he made it clear, which made the taker disappear as quick as drops of rain. He learned the taker's motive, used his kindness for his gain, and still he showed compassion, though he never trusted again. Perceived it as a lesson, so he never did complain. Still karma's rules were to be kept, and thus the harvest came. The taker fell in love with one who perceived him the same as he did the friend kind by nature, which he would disperse. A lesson for his soul this was, so the turnout was much worse. More adept in such a field was she who wore the skirt, and when his heart was broken to his shell he would revert and cry. You never miss the water until the well runs dry. The outcome for the friend kind by nature was proven to be greater. His lover was mate to his soul, the one he would meet later. For each good deed he would commit, she'd return the favor. His harvest were these blessings, they shared much happy years, whilst the taker's manifesting the results of all his fears. She was pretty as a flower, though her looks he didn't worship. He seldom gave her compliments unless he felt she earned it. She developed from her teens, breast and beauty of a queen. He loved her much but kept his focus firmly on his dreams. She looked good on his arm but couldn't manipulate him with her charm. He's the type to wake on time and not snooze the alarm. She's the type to say, babe, one day off won't do no harm. And he'd put up a resistance. He neither argued or showed emotion. He'd walk and keep his distance. Her ego he'd be known to deflate with much persistence. And she swore, this kind of man she's never met before. One who kept her on her toes and make her respect him more. Exes from the past had but compliments to offer. Acts of kindness they would show when they wanted something from her. Then true colors were shown. Before she came along, he had standards of his own. What she got when they first met was the real deal and not the clone. It took a while to surface that she's found a man with purpose. Desperate men is all she known, from nights out at clubs, guys trying to bring her back home. At times he cancelled dates with her, needing time alone. Once again, ego deflated. The reason she was faithful, rejecting guys on a daily basis, because in her eyes he's the equivalent of a stack of aces. His superiority was that great, the day that he proposed was the icing on the cake. Thus says an ex-slave before pursued by death, I was once sold so she could buy a new dress. She meaning mistress, the second in command to the houseman or man of the house as it were. Hand over mouth she'd prefer than to curse out loud and be heard. Many lashings have occurred for less, treated worse than a thing with fur for flesh. She preferred death than the cursed day her eyes would meet when she arrived from the street, an errand for her mistress. She was crippled with distress by the discovery of a pile of money exchanged for her offspring as if for an offering under the eyes of the sovereign son. Such plights would often come, left them traumatized for life. It often seemed they lost their tongue, but it was what was saw by sight over what was heard by ears. Months without her children would often turn to years. Her comfort was her tears and memories that visited. No phones but pen and paper, communications were limited. Promised land images, as an honest man distinguishes the term that God is able. Though his master commanded, he'd call master his baby in the cradle. He refused and was beaten to the blood. Injuries were fatal. Cursed be the ground that opens his mouth and swallows like a bagel. Today's ancestors known to guide us like an angel. And there you have it, your poetry fix from me this week. Hope you enjoyed. Until next week, short and sweet. Take care.
Poetry in motion, Sunday poetry in motion. Poetry in motion, Sunday poetry in motion. Poetry in motion, Sunday.